The knife sliced through the screen door like it was butter, the metallic screech echoing louder than Daniel's heartbeat in the dead-of-night kitchen. "You think you're safe here, you little freak?" His father's voice slurred, whiskey-thick and venomous. As the blade caught the moonlight filtering through the blinds, Daniel froze, the half-eaten apple slipping from his fingers to roll across the linoleum. Because in that split second, he knew the grandparents who'd shielded him for 17 years couldn't hear the storm breaking inside their old farmhouse anymore. Blood pounded in Daniel's ears like a freight train barreling down the tracks of some forgotten Midwest rail line. He was 17, all gangly limbs and unspoken dreams, backed into the corner where the fridge hummed its indifferent lullaby. His father, a ghost who'd vanished when Daniel was 5, only to slither back like a bad hangover now that Mom had died and the inheritance checks started rolling in, loomed in the doorway, eyes glassy with rage and rotgut. The knife wasn't just a threat. It was a promise, glinting with the kind of hatred that simmers slow in small-town America, the kind that whispers "faggot" behind closed doors until it doesn't anymore. "Grandpa's shotgun is in the hall closet," Daniel stammered, his voice cracking like dry earth under a summer sun. But his father just laughed, a wet, choking sound that filled the room like smoke from a grease fire. "Your grandpa? That old coot who let you prance around like some pansy? He's next, boy, after I carve the devil out of you." The farmhouse in rural Ohio had always been Daniel's sanctuary, a creaky Victorian relic wrapped in cornfields and fireflies. Grandma Elsie baked pies that could mend a broken heart, her flour-dusted hands patting his cheek when he'd come out at 13, trembling in the swing on the back porch. "Honey," she'd said, her voice like warm cornbread, "God's got room for all his colors. You shine just fine." Grandpa Harlan, with his calloused farmer's paws and stories of bootlegging moonshine during Prohibition, had nodded along, slipping Daniel a wink over his pipe. "World's full of fools, Danny boy. Don't let 'em dim your light." They'd raised him after the accident, his parents' car wrapping around a telephone pole on a rain-slicked back road, leaving him orphaned in the legal sense but cherished in every other. Or so he'd thought. Turns out, blood has a way of circling back, especially when there's money involved. His father, Jake, had clawed his way out of rehab and regret just long enough to contest the will, showing up 3 months ago with a lawyer's smile and a bottomless flask. At first, it was barbs at the dinner table. "Boy needs a man's influence." Then the whispers to neighbors in town, painting Daniel as the family shame. The kid caught kissing Tommy Jenkins behind the bleachers at the county fair. But tonight, with Grandma and Grandpa asleep upstairs, their arthritis keeping them dead to the world, Jake had crossed the line. Daniel had overheard him on the phone earlier, snarling to some cousin about cleaning house and teaching the kid a lesson. He'd locked the door, barricaded it with the kitchen table, but locks are for honest men, and Jake was anything but. The knife swung lazy, testing the air, and Daniel bolted. He didn't think. He just moved, ducking under the arc and slamming into his father's gut with the force of every suppressed tear. They crashed into the counter, dishes shattering like brittle bones, and Daniel tasted copper. His lips split open on the edge of the sink. "Get off me!" he screamed, kneeing upward, connecting with something soft that made Jake howl. "You little shit!" Jake swung wild, the blade grazing Daniel's arm. A hot line of fire that bloomed red through his flannel shirt. Pain sharpened everything. The acrid stink of spilled whiskey, the distant rumble of thunder rolling in from the west. Daniel scrambled, feet slipping on shards of plate, and lunged for the back door. The screen gave way under his shoulder, tearing free with a rip that sounded like freedom. Outside, the night air hit him like a slap, cool and electric, laced with the ozone tang of impending rain. He ran, bare feet pounding the dew-slick grass, past the rusted swing set where Grandma had pushed him higher than his fears, past Grandpa's tool shed stacked with memories of whittled birds and fishing lures. The cornfield loomed, stalks whispering secrets as he plunged in, the leaves slicing his cheeks like paper cuts. Behind him, Jake's curses chased like hounds. "I'll find you. You ain't nothin' without me." A shotgun blast cracked the sky. Grandpa, awake at last, his voice booming from the porch. "Get off my land, you son of a bitch!" But Daniel didn't stop. He couldn't. The world he'd known, the one built on unconditional love in a town that mostly turned a blind eye, had fractured. At 17, survival meant running until his lungs burned and his heart forgot how to break. He emerged on the county road hours later, or maybe minutes. Time blurred in the adrenaline haze, hitchhiking with a trucker who smelled of diesel and regret. "Chicago?" the man grunted, eyeing the blood on Daniel's sleeve. "Yeah," Daniel lied, because Ohio held nothing now but ghosts and graves. The truck rumbled north, taillights fading into the dawn, and Daniel clutched the backpack he'd grabbed in his flight. A change of clothes, Grandma's rosary, and a photo of the three of them at last year's state fair, smiles wide as the horizon. Chicago swallowed him whole. The windy city was a beast of steel and shadow, its skyscrapers clawing at the clouds like they had something to prove. Daniel crashed in a flophouse off Halsted, the kind where the walls breathed mold and the neighbors screamed through the night. He lied about his age for a busboy gig at a dive bar called the Rusty Nail, scrubbing plates until his hands pruned and his dreams curdled into nightmares of that knife. Nights were the worst. He'd lie on the sagging mattress, tracing the scar on his arm, a jagged pink reminder that healed slower than the ache in his chest. Letters from Grandma came sporadic, smuggled past Jake's watchful eye. "We're fighting for you, lamb. Stay safe. Love wins." But love felt like a fairy tale in a city that chewed up runaways and spat out husks. It was there, in the steam of the dish pit, that he first saw Michael. The bar was a queer haven tucked in Boys Town. Neon signs flickering, no gays, no covers in a wink to the cops who still patrolled like it was 1985. Michael tended bar, all sharp jawline and easy swagger, his dark hair tousled like he'd just rolled out of a better life. 22. Tattooed sleeves peeking from rolled cuffs, with eyes like smoked whiskey. Warm until you looked too close and saw the storm. Daniel dropped a stack of glasses one Friday rush, the shatter pulling Michael's gaze. "Hey, kid," he called over the din of Lady Gaga remixes and laughter laced with longing. "You break more than you clean, you're out on your ass." But his smile softened the edge, a crooked thing that hooked Daniel's breath. "Sorry," Daniel muttered, sweeping shards with trembling hands. "Rough night." Michael leaned over the pass-through, forearms corded with muscle from shaking cocktails. "Rough life's more like it. What's your poison?" "First one's on me." They talked, or rather Michael talked, spinning yarns of growing up in the suburbs, ditching med school for the pulse of the city. Daniel nodded, nursing a watered-down Coke, the fizz bubbling like secrets he wasn't ready to spill. Michael was everything Daniel wasn't. Confident, out and proud, with a laugh that cut through the haze like sunlight on Lake Michigan. By closing time, the bar emptied, leaving echoes and empty bottles. "Walk you home," Michael offered, shrugging into a leather jacket that smelled of leather and possibility. Daniel hesitated, the scar itching under his sleeve. "It's not far." But it was far enough for stories. Michael's tales of first loves and bar fights, Daniel's edited version of Ohio as just boring. At the flophouse steps, under a street lamp's sodium glow, Michael paused. "You're not like the others here, scraping by. You've got fire, kid. Don't let it burn out." Their fingers brushed, accidental, electric, and Daniel felt the world tilt. For the first time since the knife, hope flickered, fragile as a match in the wind. Weeks blurred into a rhythm of suds and stolen glances. Daniel learned the bar's pulse. The drag queens who tipped in glitter and gossip, the leather daddies nursing grudges with their whiskeys, the wide-eyed twinks chasing the high of acceptance. Michael moved through it all like he owned the chaos, slinging drinks with a flair that made tips rain. But it was the quiet moments, wiping down the bar after last call, the jukebox humming some old Springsteen tune, that Daniel lived for. Michael's voice would drop low, sharing fragments. A brother lost to AIDS in the 90s, a mother who still sent passive-aggressive Christmas cards. "Family's a crapshoot," he'd say, clinking bottles like toasts to the absent. "You gotta build your own." Daniel built his around Michael. They fell into easy habits. Late-night walks along the lakefront, where the city's lights danced on the water like fallen stars. Greasy spoon diners at 3 a.m., splitting pancakes drowned in syrup, Michael's knee brushing Daniel's under the Formica table. The first kiss happened on a fire escape during a blackout. The air thick with summer heat and the scent of blooming night jasmine from a neighbor's window box. Michael's lips were soft, tasting of cherry chapstick and courage, his hands framing Daniel's face like he was something precious. "Your trouble?" Daniel whispered against his mouth, heart hammering like it might escape. Michael grinned, that crooked flash of teeth. The best kind. But trouble had a way of trailing Daniel, even in the anonymity of Chicago's sprawl. Nightmares woke him in the flophouse, sweat-soaked and gasping, the phantom slice of the knife replaying on loop. He'd sneak to the bar early, helping Michael stock the cooler, their banter a bomb. "Tell me something real," Michael said one dawn, as they cracked open the first beers of the shift. "Hair of the dog for the insomniacs." Daniel stared at the bubbles rising like confessions. "My grandparents, they were my everything. Loved me no matter what. But my dad, he's a monster. Came back, tried to." He trailed off, rolling up his sleeve to show the scar, a roadmap of rage etched in pale skin. Michael's fingers traced it, gentle as a prayer. "Jesus, Danny, that's not family. That's poison." His eyes darkened, a shadow crossing the whiskey warmth. "I've got my own scars. Not like this, but yeah. We survive by outrunning the bastards." That night, they made love in Michael's cramped walk-up above a laundromat, the spin cycle below thrumming like a heartbeat. It was clumsy and fervent, Daniel's first time, nerves fraying like old rope, but Michael was patient, whispering praises in the dark. "Beautiful, so damn beautiful." Afterward, tangled in sheets that smelled of him, Daniel felt anchored, the runaway boy finally home. Fall crept in on crisp winds, turning the lake to steel and the leaves to fire. Daniel saved enough for a better place, a studio in Wicker Park with peeling wallpaper and a view of nothing but brick. Michael helped him move, hauling boxes up 3 flights with jokes about nesting like lovebirds. It felt domestic, dangerously so, like the American dream repackaged for 2 guys who shouldn't fit the mold but did. Then the letter came, slipped under the door like a snake, the envelope crisp and official, postmarked from Ohio. Daniel's hands shook as he tore it open. A court summons. Jake, leveraging some trumped-up guardianship claim, was suing for custody, painting Daniel as unstable, a flight risk, all to seize the farmhouse and the land. Return voluntarily or face consequences. It warned, the lawyer's signature a flourish of finality. He showed Michael over takeout lo mein, the steam curling like ghosts between them. "He won't stop. He'll drag me back. Lock me up until I'm cured or something worse." Michael's jaw tightened, fork pausing midair. "Over my dead body. We'll fight this. Get a pro bono lawyer. There's places in Boys Town that eat these assholes for breakfast." But doubt gnawed at Daniel like winter's first bite. Late shifts at the bar turned tense. He'd catch himself scanning faces in the crowd, half expecting Jake's bleary glare. Michael noticed, pulling him aside one night in the stockroom, amid crates of liquor that promised oblivion. "You're spiraling, babe. Talk to me." "I can't lose this," Daniel choked out, the words dam-breaking. "You, the life we're building. It's all I have left of good." Michael cupped his face, thumbs brushing away tears. "Then hold on. We're in it together." Their love deepened in the face of it, fierce, like a bonfire against the encroaching cold. Weekends became escapes. Drives south to Indiana Dunes, where they'd hike trails hand in hand, the sand shifting underfoot like time. Michael taught him to skip stones, each plunk a defiance. Daniel read him poetry from a battered Ginsberg volume, verses of howling cities and tender boys. "This is us," he'd say, voice thick, raw and real, yet cracks formed, subtle as frost on glass. Michael started disappearing, late nights covering shifts that stretched into dawn, phone buzzing with texts he silenced too quick. Daniel chalked it up to the bar's grind, burying worry under shifts and summons prep. They met a lawyer, a no-nonsense dyke named Rita with a buzz cut and a Rolodex of precedents. Ohio's backward as hell on queer rights, she said over coffee black as pitch. But we've got leverage, your grandparents' affidavits, the police report from that night. Jake's got priors longer than my ex's grudge. Hope flickered anew, but so did the shadows. One November evening, rain lashing the windows like accusations, Daniel waited at the bar. Closing came and went. Michael was a no-show. Panic clawed up Daniel's throat as he paced the empty street, neon reflecting in puddles like spilled dreams. His phone lit up at 2 a.m. A text from an unknown number. Ask your boyfriend about the dealer on Addison. He's not who you think. The words hit like a sucker punch, stealing breath. Betrayal? No. Michael was his rock, the one who'd kiss scars and chase demons. But doubt is a thief, and it stole sleep that night, leaving Daniel adrift in the dark. The next day, he confronted Michael in the alley behind the bar, the dumpster's stink mirroring the rot in his gut. Who's the guy on Addison? Some dealer. Michael's face shuddered, color draining like milk from a cracked glass. What the hell, Danny? It's nothing. Old shit from before you. Before me? Or during? Daniel's voice rose, raw as the wind whipping off the lake. I need to know. After everything. My dad. The lawsuit. Don't lie to me. Michael lit a cigarette, the flame illuminating regret in his eyes. Fine. Yeah, I owed money. Bounced a check to this prick for bar tabs, inventory crap. Paid it off months ago. Swear. But the text lingered, a splinter under skin. That night, they fought. Words like knives, slicing the trust they'd woven. You're pushing me away because you're scared? Michael yelled, slamming the door to his apartment. Daniel stormed out into the storm, rain mingling with tears, the city a blur of betrayal and breaking. He crashed at the old flophouse, the moldy walls closing in like judgment. Days passed in a haze of double shifts and dodged calls. Rita pushed the case forward, depositions scheduled, Jake's history unearthed like buried bones. But victory tasted hollow without Michael. Then, a voicemail. Michael's voice, cracked and urgent. Danny, come to the bar. Now, it's bad. Daniel's cab raced through slushy streets, heart in his throat. The rusty nail was dark, save for a single light over the door. Inside, Michael paced, face bruised, a split lip blooming purple. He found me, Michael rasped, collapsing into a stool. Your dad. Tracked you here through some PI bullshit. Cornered me after close. Said if I didn't back off, he'd make sure the bar lost its license. For harboring a fugitive. Rage boiled in Daniel, hot and holy. That son of a... But Michael grabbed his hand, grip fierce. There's more. He mentioned your grandparents. Said he'd burn the farmhouse if you don't come home. I might have said some things. To protect you. Promised I'd get you to meet him by time. Betrayal twisted anew, sharper than before. You what? Sold me out. No. God, no. Just stalling. Danny, I love you. I'd die before I let him touch you. The words hung, a lifeline in the wreckage. Daniel searched those whiskey eyes, finding truth amid the fear. They clung then, in the empty bar, kisses salty with blood and rain, reaffirming what the world tried to steal. But Jake was closing in, the noose tightening. The climax loomed, a storm ready to break. Winter clamped down on Chicago like a vice, the wind off the lake howling elegies for the fragile. Daniel and Michael patched their rift with quiet determination. Nights barricaded in the studio, bodies entwined against the cold, plotting like generals in a war neither asked for. Rita's strategy crystallized. A restraining order against Jake, backed by witness statements from the trucker who'd picked Daniel up that fateful night and affidavits from Boys Town allies who'd seen the scars. We're painting him as the villain, she said in her office, steam rising from styrofoam cups of bad coffee. Unfit, abusive. Your grandparents' testimony seals it. They're flying in next week. The thought of seeing them twisted Daniel's gut. Joy laced with terror. Grandma's hugs, Grandpa's gruff wisdom. They'd aged in his absence, lines etched deeper by the fight. Jake had lawyered up, countersuing with claims of parental rights and rehabilitation, trotting out a quack therapist who swore Daniel's lifestyle was a phase curable with prayer and pills. The irony burned. America, land of the free, where love could still land you in chains. Michael threw himself into the fray, calling in favors from the bar's network. Bartenders with law degrees, queens with activist fire. But the shadows under his eyes deepened. He'd quit the smokes, but the stress carved hollows in his cheeks. "This city's got our back," he'd murmur, tracing Daniel's scar in bed. "But your old man's got the devil's luck." The attack came unannounced, a Thursday night shift when snow blanketed the streets in hush. Daniel was behind the bar, mixing Manhattans with mechanical precision, Michael in the back tallying receipts. The door swung open, admitting a blast of Arctic air and a figure bundled in a parka. Tall, shambling, reeking of cheap bourbon even from across the room. Jake, unmistakable. The watery eyes, the paunch straining against flannel, the sneer that said he'd birthed a disappointment. Daniel's mixer slipped, bitters splashing like blood. "You can't be here," he hissed, heart jackhammering. "There's a bar on this place." Jake slid onto a stool, gloved hands drumming the scarred wood. "For you, maybe, but I'm just a concerned dad, checking on his boy." His voice was oil, slick and low, for the patron's ears. Two lesbians nursing IPAs, a cluster of college kids oblivious to the undercurrent. "Heard you've been shacked up with some lowlife. Thought I'd offer a ride home. Family's family." The word curdled in Daniel's mouth. "Get out, before I call the cops." Jake leaned in, breath fogging the air between them. "Call em. Tell em how you ran, stole from your own blood. That inheritance is mine by rights. And you, prancing around this fairy den? I'll shut it down, watch it burn like Sodom." Threats coiled like smoke, but it was the malice in his eyes, the same that had flashed in the farmhouse kitchen, that paralyzed Daniel. Memories flooded. The knife's gleam, the cornstalks whipping his flight. He fumbled for the phone under the register, dialing Rita one-handed. Michael burst from the back like avenging fury, towel slung over shoulder, stance wide. "I said back the fuck off last time. You deaf." Jake's gaze flicked to him, appraising, dismissive. "Ah, the boyfriend. Pretty boy with a punch. Heard you got debts, Mikey. That dealer on Addison? He says hi. One word from me, and your little empire crumbles." Michael's fists clenched, knuckles whitening. "You threatening me now? In my bar." "Our bar," Daniel corrected softly, finding his voice amid the roar. The patrons had quieted, sensing the electric charge, phones subtly raised like shields. Jake chuckled, a sound like gravel in a gut. "Threats? Nah, just facts. Sign over the land, kid, and we all walk away happy. Resist, and..." He trailed off, patting his coat pocket meaningfully, the bulge unmistakable, an echo of that long-ago blade. Time fractured. Michael lunged, grabbing Jake's collar, hauling him half off the stool. "Out. Now." Fists flew, Jake's wild haymaker glancing Michael's jaw, Daniel vaulting the bar to tackle them both. Glass shattered, a bottle exploding in a vermilion spray of Merlot. Patrons screamed, chairs scraping as the fight spilled toward the door. Daniel pinned Jake's arm, knee in his chest, tasting bile and bravery. "You're done. This ends tonight." Sirens wailed distant, closing fast. Someone had dialed 911. Jake bucked, spitting curses. "Ungrateful queer. I'll bury you." But the cops burst in, badges flashing like judgment, cuffing him amid the chaos. Michael slumped against the wall, lips split anew, while Daniel gave his statement in a numb monotone, the words tumbling out. The farmhouse, the knife, the endless run. Rita arrived post-bust, her buzzcut dusted with snow, clipboard in hand. "Got him on assault, trespassing, weapons charge. This torpedoes his case. Judge sees patterns, not parental love." She clapped Daniel's shoulder, fierce. "You did good, kid." But victory was Pyrrhic. The bar was trashed, insurance a nightmare, regular spooked. Michael stitched his own lip with a first aid kit, cursing softly. He mentioned the dealer again. Knows too much. What if he's got dirt that sticks? Daniel pulled him close, the embrace a bulwark. Then we burn it together. No more secrets. Michael hesitated, then nodded, exhaling like surrender. All right, full disclosure. The debt's clear, but I dipped into the bars till once, last year. Desperate times. Paid it back. But if he digs. The confession hung. Not a betrayal but a bridge, human, flawed, forgivable. They cleaned the bar till dawn. Brooms whispering absolution. The jukebox crooning Billie Holiday like a lullaby for the wounded. Grandma and Grandpa arrived 2 days later, stepping off the Greyhound like pilgrims. Grandma's coat mended with safety pins. Grandpa's hat tilted just so. The reunion at the studio was a dam breaking. Hugs that crushed breath, tears salting cheeks, stories spilling like overfilled cups. We sold the tractor, lamb, Grandma said, patting his hand. Fought tooth and nail. Your light's worth every penny. Grandpa eyed Michael over his spectacles. Gruff but appraising. Heard you took a swing for my boy. Got stones, son. Treat him right or you'll answer to me. Michael flushed, extending a hand. Yes, sir. Wouldn't have it any other way. Court loomed. A hearing in Ohio, neutral ground. They flew economy. The planes hum a tense underscore to Michael's fidgeting. Daniel's scar throbbing like a barometer. Jake's lawyer spun yarns of redemption. My client's overcome addiction. Seeks only reconciliation. But the evidence mounted. Police reports, medical files, Grandma's testimony quivering but ironclad. He raised a knife to his own flesh. No father does that. Daniel took the stand last, voice steady as Lake Michigan in summer. They loved me, my grandparents, loved who I am, gay and all. He saw a threat, a chance to steal. I ran to survive, and I'd run again. The gallery murmured. A ripple of empathy in the stale air. Michael's gaze from the bench was anchor, proud and pained. The judge, a silver-haired woman with eyes like she'd seen too many family wars, ruled swift. Full emancipation, restraining order permanent, Jake's claims dismissed with prejudice. Parental rights end where terror begins, she intoned, gavel cracking like thunder. Elation crashed over them in waves. Hugs in the hallway, Grandpa's whoop echoing off marble. But as they boarded the flight home, Michael grew quiet, staring out at the tarmac lights. It's over, Daniel said, squeezing his hand. Michael turned, smile tight. Yeah, almost. The almost echoed. A harbinger Daniel ignored in the glow of win. Back in Chicago, they celebrated at the Rusty Nail. Reopened with duct tape fixes and renewed spirit, Queens toasting with Cosmos. Laughter flowed, but Michael's phone buzzed insistent, pulling him outside thrice. Vendors, he muttered, returning with rumpled collar. Daniel let it slide, drunk on freedom and cheap beer. But seeds of doubt, once planted, root deep. Spring thawed the city, greening the parks and greasing the wheels of their life. Daniel enrolled in community college, creative writing, chasing the stories Grandpa spun by firelight. Michael expanded the bar, eyeing a second location, his ambition a spark that lit Daniel's world. Love settled into grooves. Lazy Sundays with the New York Times crossword, Michael's head in Daniel's lap. Midnight runs for tacos, debating if Foucault or Whitman captured the queer soul better. Yet the cracks widened. Michael vanished whole weekends, scouting spots in Milwaukee, returning with stubble and evasions. Bills piled oddly. The studio's rent hiked, unexplained charges on the bar's card. Daniel confronted him one muggy June night, the argument erupting over cold pizza in the kitchenette. You're lying, Daniel accused, voice cracking. Again. After everything. Michael's eyes flashed, defensive, cornered. It's business, Danny. Tough times. I borrowed from a guy, quiet loan, no banks. Paybacks next month. Borrowed? Or stole? The word escaped, ugly and true. Memories of the Till confession surged. Who's the guy? Not Addison again. Michael deflated, sinking to the floor, head in hands. Worse, A developer wants the bar spot for condos. Offered cash to fold. I took an advance. To cover us. You, school, the future. Betrayal bloomed. A black rose in Daniel's chest. Us? Or you? You used our life as collateral. It's not like that, Michael pleaded, reaching. I did it for love. To build something real. Daniel recoiled, the scar burning. Love doesn't lie. It doesn't run side deals while I'm fighting for my soul. He grabbed his jacket, storming into the night, the doors slam a finality. The fight festered, days of silence broken by terse texts. Daniel crashed with a bar buddy. The lumpy couch a poor substitute for Michael's arms. Rita mediated once, over beers. Relationships are battlegrounds too. But abandonment? That's Jake's play. Guilt gnawed Michael. He showed up at Daniel's class, flowers wilting in the heat, eyes red-rimmed. I fucked up. Pride, fear, whatever. But you're my home, Danny. Let me fix it. Forgiveness came slow. A truce over ice cream at midnight, spoons clinking like fragile peace. No more secrets, Daniel stipulated, licking mint chip from his lip. Promise. Swear on my scars, Michael vowed, kissing the vow into skin. Summer peaked in a heat wave, the city simmering like a pot left too long. They vacationed cheap, Amtrak to the Finger Lakes, renting a cabin by the water. Days blurred in swims and sunsets, nights in fevered reclaiming. This is forever, Michael whispered under stars, fingers laced. Daniel believed, the lie sweet as lake water. But fall brought the reckoning. A letter from the developer. Default notice, the advance called due double with interest that screamed Shylock. Michael had forged signatures, skimmed more than admitted. The bar teetered, patrons thinning as rumors swirled. Daniel found the papers in Michael's jacket, eviction threats, loan docs with his name forged in innocent blue ink. The betrayal crashed full. Not just money, but trust, the very foundation Jake had tried to shatter. You used me? Daniel sobbed in the alley. Rain starting again, that dramatic downpour blurring lines. My name, our life. Like I'm just another debt. Michael collapsed against the wall, wrecked. I thought I could protect us, be the hero, but I'm sorry. God, Danny, I'm so sorry. Thunder cracked, the sky weeping for them. Daniel reached, then pulled back. Love warring with loss. I need time to see if we survive this. He walked away, the alley swallowing him, leaving Michael in the deluge. A scene etched in memory, raw and ruinous. Autumn stripped the city bare, leaves carpeting sidewalks in crimson regret. Daniel moved out, back to a shared apartment in Logan Square, bunking with a poet named Theo who brewed terrible coffee but asked no questions. The rusty nail limped on, Michael manning it solo, his texts a litany of apologies. Miss you, fixing it. Love. Daniel read them in the dead of night, thumb hovering over reply, heart a battlefield of what-ifs. College anchored him. Professors praising his essays on queer resilience, drawing from the well of his scars. Your voice cuts, one said, red pen hovering. Publish this. But words on page couldn't mend the rift. They merely mapped the pain. Grandma called weekly, her voice a lifeline from Ohio. Forgive, but don't forget, lamb. Love's a garden. Weed it or watch it choke. Jake faded to a footnote, locked in county jail on escalating charges. His threats reduced to impotent postcards from a cell. Yet his shadow lingered, a reminder that monsters breed more than just fear. They sow doubt. Daniel dated tentatively. A barista with dimples, an activist with fire. But they were placeholders, echoes of Michael's laugh. The bar's crisis peaked in November. A cold snap freezing pipes and funds alike. Michael sold his bike, pawned the leather jacket. But the developer circled like a vulture, offering pennies on the dollar. Patrons rallied, a benefit night with drag auctions and celebrity cameos, but it was a bandage on a hemorrhage. Daniel showed up incognito, nursing a soda in the corner, watching Michael work the crowd. Charisma undimmed, but eyes hollow as November skies. Their eyes met across the room. a current pulling taut. After close, Michael cornered him by the jukebox. You came. Couldn't let it die, Daniel said, arms crossed like armor. Not without saying goodbye. Michael's face crumpled. Don't, please. I've got a plan, investors from Milwaukee, real ones. Give me time. Time. The thief that had stolen so much already. Daniel sighed, the fight leached out. Show me. Prove you're all in. They talked till dawn. Plans sketched on napkins, dreams dusted off like old vinyl. Michael confessed deeper. The med school dropout not from burnout, but a coming out implosion. Father disowning, brother blaming him for family shame. I built walls, he admitted, voice raw. Pushed you away to keep you safe. Stupid hero shit. Daniel listened, the pieces slotting. Mirrors of his own flight, two boys running from the same ghosts. We're both messes, he said softly. But maybe messes fit. Reconciliation brewed slow, a reconciliation over shared shifts. Daniel back part-time. Their touches tentative, rebuilding touch by touch. By Christmas, the studio welcomed him home, tinsel strung like truce flags. Michael's gift a leather-bound journal. For your stories. Our story. Spring 2026 Bloom tentative. The bar saved by a queer collective buy-in, patrons becoming stakeholders. Michael thrived in the chaos, his ambition tempered by humility. Daniel's writing flowered, a chapbook accepted by a small press. Scars and fireflies. Tales of love's quiet revolutions. They traveled light. A road trip to Ohio. The farmhouse standing sentinel. Grandma's pie waiting like absolution. But peace is fragile in America's heartland, where progress marches uneven. Jake's appeal hit midsummer. A technicality, dismissed evidence. A judge swayed by small-town piety. He walked free, slinking back to the farm's shadow. Parole stipulating distance but not deterrence. Panic resurfaced, old wounds weeping. Daniel dreamed of knives again. Waking in Michael's arms, sweat slick and shaking. He's gone, Michael soothed, but the lie tasted bitter. They fortified. Security cams at the bar. A civil suit from Rita to drain Jake's pockets dry. The climax shattered a July heatwave. The air thick as betrayal. Daniel was at a reading in Boys Town. His chapbook launch, nerves jangling like keys, when the call came. Theo, breathless. Your place, fire. Michael's inside. Sirens wailed as Daniel raced back. Cab weaving through traffic. Heart a drum solo of dread. The studio was engulfed. Flames licking the sky like accusatory tongues. The crowd a murmur of horror. Firefighters battled the blaze, hoses hissing steam. Daniel pushed through, spotting Michael. Singed shirt, face smudged black. Being loaded onto an ambulance. Gas leak, a cop said, clipboard poised. Arson suspected. Your ex-old man? We picked him up 2 blocks over, reeking of accelerant. Michael's hand found Daniel's through the oxygen mask. Weak but warm. Knew he'd come. Told you. Shoo! Daniel choked, tears carving tracks. You're okay. That's what matters. The hospital was a limbo of beeps and bleach. Michael admitted for smoke inhalation. Ribs bruised from a beam's collapse. Daniel kept vigil, reading aloud from the journal. Their story, half-written, full of hope. You saved it, Michael rasped, nodding to the singed volume clutched in Daniel's lap. Grabbed it on the way out. Couldn't let your words burn. Grandma and Grandpa arrived by red eye, their presence a talisman. That devil's done, Grandpa growled, pacing the hall. We'll testify again. Bury him legal. Jake confessed under pressure. Rage-fueled, aimed at the fairy nest. Trial swift, sentence harsh. 10 years, no parole. The farmhouse sold, proceeds split. Half to Daniel's education fund. Half to a shelter for queer youth. Full circle, Grandma said, hugging him fierce. Love reclaims. Healing came piecemeal. Michael recovered slow, the fire scarring his lungs with wheezes, but therapy and time mended the rest. They relocated, the bar thriving, but Daniel pushing for fresh starts. A sublet in Brooklyn called Cheaper Rents, literary scene buzzing. Michael's cousin offering a partner gig at a queer lounge. Packing was cathartic, boxes labeled "Us Now." On the Greyhound East, windows framing the Rust Belts fade to green, Daniel leaned on Michael's shoulder. "Think we'll make it?" "All the way." Michael kissed his temple, breath steadying. "We've run farther. Together, unstoppable." New York hit like Chicago squared, hustle amplified, anonymity a gift. Their walk-up in Bed-Stuy overlooked brownstones blooming with pride flags, the air electric with possibility. Michael bartended at the Eagle, slinging drinks with that old swagger, while Daniel tempied at a lit mag. His novel in progress whispered over diner dates. Love matured, less wildfire, more hearth. Arguments over grocery lists, makeup sex lazy and laughing. Betrayals became backstory, conflicts the forge that strengthened. They volunteered at the shelter, Daniel mentoring runaways, Michael's tales of survival a beacon. "You were my first safe place," a kid told him once, eyes wide. Michael teared up later in Daniel's arms. "Like you for me." Humanism wove through, their story not triumph or tragedy, but testament. America, flawed and fierce, held space for them. Pride parades marching unapologetic, laws inching toward equity. Daniel's book dropped to quiet acclaim, reviews praising its tender gut punch, readers emailing stories that echoed his own. One anniversary, marking the run, the reunion, they stood on the Brooklyn Bridge at dusk, the skyline a jagged promise. From Ohio dirt to this, Daniel marveled, wind tousling their hair. Michael pulled him close, rings slipping onto finger. Simple gold, engraved, survivors. To more runs, side by side. Not every tale ends in fireworks. Some smolder steady, humanistic in their quiet win. Daniel said yes, the city lights winking approval. Two boys who'd fled the knife now wielding words. Love their sharpest blade. Years folded like well-worn pages. The narrative of Daniel and Michael etching deeper into the American tapestry. Brooklyn became home, its brownstones cradling their chaos. The novel's launch party spilling onto stoops with cheap wine and queer anthems. Michael's lounge gig evolving into ownership, a haven called Harlan's after the grandfather who'd taught resilience. Daniel's writing career bloomed sporadic. Essays in The Atlantic on rural queer survival. A second book grappling with forgiveness's sharp edges. "You're chronicling us?" Michael teased over morning oatmeal. The gays who wouldn't quit. But life, that great leveler, tested anew. Michael's lungs rebelled in their 30s. A chronic cough from the fire's ghost. Doctors prescribing inhalers and lifestyle changes. Daniel hovered, the caretaker role flipping their script. Resentment flickering brief before love doused it. "I'm not fragile," Michael snapped one rain-lashed afternoon. Oxygen tank hissing accusation. "I know," Daniel soothed, rubbing shoulders knotted with pride. "But let me carry some, like you did." Therapy became ritual, joint sessions unpacking the run's ripples. Jake Spector a case study in generational venom. Michael's came out. The med school flight not just disownment, but a suicide attempt hushed by family shame. "I hid it," he confessed, voice splintering. "Feared you'd see weakness." Daniel wept then, holding him through the storm. "Weak? You're my strength. We heal together." Grandma passed gentle in their 40s. Cancer, quiet as her faith. Leaving a quilt stitched with memories, each square a story. Grandpa followed a year on, heart giving out mid-whittling a bird for Daniel's desk. The funeral in Ohio was a homecoming halved. Locals who'd shunned now nodding respect. Jake's parole denied forever in a cell. "You made him proud," a cousin said, awkward olive branch. Inheritance came practical. The old swing set dismantled, shipped east as garden art. Daniel hung there on lazy Sundays, Michael pushing gentle, laughter echoing the past. Fatherhood crept unexpected. A surrogate, a boy named Ellis after Elsie's grace. Wide-eyed and curious, he toddled through their lives, asking why two dads? With toddler bluntness. "Because love's got options," Michael quipped, ruffling curls. Daniel wrote him letters for later. Tales of running, surviving, loving fierce. Sealed with "Your story starts here." Conflicts arose domestic. Michael's expansion dreams clashing Daniel's writerly retreat, arguments flaring hot, then cooling to compromise. Betrayal's echo surfaced once. A bar audit revealing skim tips for Ellis's college fund. Michael's just in case, echoing old debts. Trust me, he begged, eyes pleading. Daniel paused, journal open to their vows. I do. But communicate, damn it. We're past solo flights. The lesson stuck, their bond a living edit, revisions yielding stronger prose. Climax revisited in subtler guises. A homophobic assault outside the lounge. Michael shielding a patron, Daniel arriving to blood and badges. Or Ellis's schoolyard taunt. Your dads are weird. Met with Daniel's storytime honesty, turning bully to ally. Each tested, each tempered them humanistic. No heroes unscathed, but humanity in the mending. By 50, they embodied romance's endurance. Silver threading hair, hands veined with time, still tracing scars in candlelight. Daniel's memoir hit bestseller whispers. Runaway hearts, weaving their arc with others, a chorus of queer endurance. Launch night, Michael toasted from the podium. To the boy who ran, and the man who caught him, retirement loomed gentle. A cabin upstate, lake views mirroring their youth. Mornings, coffee on the porch, Ellis visiting with his own partner, a non-binary artist with fire. You two set the bar, they said, grinning. Daniel leaned into Michael, sunset gilding them gold. Worth the run. Every mile. Kiss soft, eternal. In the end, not tragic blaze nor flawless fairy tale, but a life richly lived. Their story whispered. Love survives not despite the knives, but through them. Raised in acceptance, tested by flight, redeemed in return. America, vast and vexed, held them fast. A testament to the human heart's unyielding gay.